The grand hall of the alien palace shone with golden lights and floating crystals. Hundreds of nobles, leaders, and warriors from many star systems had gathered. Today was the choosing ceremony, where powerful alien princes would select their brides from the royal daughters of Zayari. 13 princesses stood on a silver platform, dressed in glowing silk robes, each more beautiful than the last. They were daughters of the High Queen herself, trained in dance, politics, and war. Their hair sparkled like stardust, their eyes held galaxies, but one of them stood quietly at the far end. Her name was Princess Elira. She was the youngest, the softest, and some said, the weakest. While her sisters were bold and fierce, Elira was gentle and kind. She didn't enjoy battle games or loud parties. Instead, she loved music, stars, and healing gardens, some princes whispered. She's not a warrior princess, others said. She wouldn't survive a galactic war. The first prince stepped forward, a tall warrior with 6 arms and armor made of black metal. He looked at the line of princesses and stopped at Princess Kayla. The strongest one, he placed a golden band on her wrist. Claiming her as his bride, the crowd cheered one by one. More princes stepped forward, choosing the princesses each time. The crowd clapped and music played. Elira stood still, trying to smile even though her heart beat fast. Her hands were cold, her eyes looked down. She had dreamed of love, of someone seeing her heart, not just her power, but now, 12 princesses had been chosen. Only Elira remained. Standing alone under the bright light, a heavy silence filled the room. No prince stepped forward, not even one. The High Queen stood from her throne, her voice strong and sharp. If none shall claim the last daughter of Zayari, she said, then she will be sent to the outer moons. Gasps filled the air. The outer moons were cold, dark, lonely, a place for banishment. Not for a princess, Elira's eyes burned. But she did not cry. She lifted her chin and took a slow breath. She would not beg, she would not break. Then, from the edge of the hall, a voice called out, "I'll take her." Heads turned, gasps rang out again from the shadows. A figure stepped into the light. He was tall, human, dressed in simple battle clothes, his hair dark and his eyes sharp. He had no crown, no royal badge, no alien tattoos, a human in a court of alien royalty. Uninvited, unwanted, guards stepped forward, raising their weapons. But the queen raised her hand to stop them. "Who dares speak?" she asked, her voice cold. The man bowed slightly, but not with fear. "My name is Commander Jace of Earth," he said. "I choose Princess Elira." Shock moved through the crowd like fire. "Humans are not part of this ceremony," a prince shouted. "He cannot join the royal line," another hissed, but the queen's eyes narrowed. She looked at her daughter. "Elira," she said, "do you accept this human's choice?" Elira looked at the man, confused, unsure. She had never seen him before. His eyes were calm but strong. He did not laugh at her, did not look at her with pity. He looked at her like she mattered. Slowly, she walked toward him. The music had stopped. The hall was silent. Every step felt heavy. Like walking through air, when she reached him, she asked softly, "Why would you choose me?" Jace looked at her and said, "Because no one else did. And I don't follow fools." The hall trembled with whispers. Elira blinked, surprised by the strange answer. But her heart felt something warm for the first time. Someone stepped forward not because of her title or power, but because she was left behind. And he didn't think she should be. She turned and faced the queen. "I accept," she said, her voice stronger than before. The queen gave a long stare, then nodded. "So be it." Behind them, one of the princes clenched his jaw. He had planned to shame Elira, to erase her from the court quietly. Now this human had ruined everything. As Elira and Jace walked out of the hall, 1,000 eyes followed them, some with anger, some with wonder. But in Elira's heart, something had changed. She didn't know what this journey meant. But for the first time, she wasn't alone. The great hall still echoed with whispers as Elira stood beside the strange human named Jace. 12 alien princesses had been chosen by noble warriors from the stars. But Elira, the quiet one, the soft one, had been left alone until this outsider stepped forward now. Her life had changed with just one sentence. "I'll take her." The High Queen remained on her throne, her face calm, but her eyes sharp like ice. Around them, alien princes murmured in disbelief. Some laughed, others growled in anger. "This is madness," one prince said. "A human cannot join the royal bloodline." Jace didn't flinch. He stood tall in his simple Earth Warrior's jacket, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of his blade. I didn't come here for bloodlines, he said softly. I came for her. The queen raised a hand. Calling for silence, she looked at her youngest daughter. Elira, she said, you may speak freely. Do you accept this man's offer? Elira turned to Jace, her heart racing. She had never met a human before, and now, one was offering to stand beside her when no one else would. His eyes held no fear, no shame, no cruelty. Only one strange thing, belief, I accept, she said quietly. But clearly, and the room froze once more. The queen gave a slow nod. So be it. The choosing ceremony ended with cold silence. No music, no cheers. Elira and Jace walked out of the hall side by side. Behind them, a dozen alien princes burned with quiet rage, especially Prince Raven, the war prince of the Velkari. He had expected Elira to be cast out in shame. Instead, she had walked out with her head high, and a human at her side in the guest chamber. Elira sat on a crystal bench, unsure what to say. She had never been alone with a man before, especially not a human. Jace stood near the window, looking at the 3 moons hanging over the palace sky. Why did you do it? She asked at last. He turned slowly. Because you didn't deserve to be left behind, he said. They only see power. I see something more, she blinked. Surprised. I'm not strong like my sisters, she whispered. I don't command armies or bend metal with my mind. Jace stepped closer, his voice calm. Strength isn't always loud, he said. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's standing alone in front of 1,000 people who call you worthless and not running away. Elira looked at him, unsure how to reply. But inside, something warm sparked quietly. Not love, not yet, but maybe something near it, maybe. Hope, outside the room, in the shadows of the hallway. Prince Raven watched silently, his jaw tight, his eyes glowing with rage. Elira had made him look like a fool, and now, a human had taken what was meant to be forgotten. He would not allow this insult to live that night. As Elira rested her head against the cold pillow, and Jace sat with his weapon across his lap, guarding the door, a shadow slipped through the open window. Silent, fast, deadly. The assassin moved like wind, knife in hand, heading straight for the bed. But Jace was ready. He spun with lightning speed. Slamming the figure against the wall, the knife dropped with a clatter. The intruder hissed and vanished in a cloud of black smoke. Jace rushed to check on Elira. She was sitting up, shaking, her eyes wide. Are you hurt? He asked. She shook her head. No, she said, but that wasn't just an assassin. That was a night phantom. Only the royal bloodline can summon them. Jace frowned. Someone from inside your own court tried to kill you. Or maybe me. Elira stood up, her hands trembling. I thought they would forget me, she said. But now they want me dead. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. They're afraid, he said. And afraid people make the worst choices. You don't have to face this alone. The next morning, the queen summoned them both. She had learned of the attack, and her eyes held both sorrow and anger. You will leave the palace at once, she said. For your safety. But where will I go? Elira asked. The queen looked at Jace. You've chosen her, she said. So protect her. Take her to the mountains of Elkaran. There is an old station there, still under our control. Stay hidden. Stay alive. Jace bowed slightly. I will keep her safe, he promised. As they prepared to leave, Elira stood at the ship's door, looking back at the palace one last time. She had grown up inside its walls. Now she was leaving it behind. Not as a princess, but as something else. She didn't know what waited in the mountains. She didn't know if she would live another week, but she knew one thing. This human had stepped into her darkness and offered her light, and that was a beginning. The mountain winds howled as Jace guided the small ship over the rocky peaks of Elkaran. Cold air pushed against the wings, but the engines held steady. Beside him, Elira sat quietly, her fingers wrapped around the edge of her seat. She had never flown outside the royal skies before. Below them, ancient trees covered the valley like a green ocean. Mist curled around the cliffs and strange bluebirds darted through the clouds. This place was far from the palace, far from the court, far from the danger, or so they thought. Jace landed the ship near an old outpost. Hidden inside the side of a mountain, the walls were covered in vines, and metal doors squeaked as they opened. No guards, no servants, just silence and dust. Still, it would do. It had power, beds, and a secure gate. We'll stay here, Jace said, scanning the area. I'll keep watch. Elira walked slowly through the hallway, her footsteps echoing. This was nothing like the shining palace. No gold walls, no music, but somehow, she felt free. In her room, she opened an old drawer and found a small mirror. Her face looked pale, tired, but stronger. She remembered the moment Jace had grabbed the assassin, the way he stood between her and danger. No one had ever done that before, not even her own people. Outside, Jace stood on the platform, scanning the sky with sharp eyes. He hadn't slept much since they left the palace. He trusted no one, not after the Night Phantom. He had fought in human wars, survived alien battles, but this was different this time. He wasn't protecting a soldier. He was protecting someone gentle. As night fell, the wind grew colder inside. Elira lit a small lamp and sat beside the window. She watched the stars, so many lights so far away. She wondered what her sisters were doing now. Did they miss her? Or were they happy she was gone? Suddenly, she heard something, a whisper in the dark. She turned, heart racing. There, by the wall, a shadow moved. Elira grabbed the lamp and stepped back. "Jace," she called before she could speak again. The shadow jumped forward, a figure in black, mask covering its face, holding a thin blade that glowed red. The blade sliced through the air toward her. She screamed, falling backward. The door burst open. Jace dove in. Tackling the assassin, they crashed into the wall, metal ringing out. The attacker was fast, skilled, moving like smoke, but Jace was faster. He threw punches, blocked the blade with his forearm guard. Sparks flew. Elira crawled to the corner, shaking. Watching the deadly fight in front of her, the assassin flipped backward and disappeared into the vents. Gone in seconds, Jace locked the door and checked Elira's arm. She was bleeding just a little. "I'm okay," she whispered. "You came so fast, I never stopped watching," he said, voice tight. "Someone found us." He checked the security cameras. One had been cut. "How did they get past our sensors?" he muttered. Elira looked at the blade left behind. It was unlike any royal weapon. "This mark," she said, pointing at a symbol on the hilt. "It belongs to the Shadow Guild." Jace frowned. "I've heard of them," he said, "but they don't work for free. Someone paid them to kill us." Elira stood slowly, her body shaking but her eyes strong. "I think I know who," she said. "Prince Ravon?" Jace nodded. "He wanted you erased, and now he knows I'm with you." Elira felt cold. It was one thing to be ignored, but now... Someone wanted her dead. Later that night, Jace repaired the sensors and added new traps, laser grids, motion walls, and a hidden beacon that could call his old team from Earth if needed. Inside, Elira sat with a datapad, reading about the Shadow Guild. They were known for poison, mirrors, and silent kills. But she wasn't afraid, not like before. She had survived the shame of being unwanted. She had survived exile now. She had survived a real attack. Something had changed inside her. Not just fear, but something like fire. She looked at Jace, sitting by the door with his weapon on his lap, eyes half closed. He didn't say much, but she could feel his presence like armor around her. "Safe, solid, steady," she whispered almost to herself. "Why did you really come for me?" Jace opened one eye and replied, "Because sometimes the people left behind are the ones worth fighting for." And in that quiet moment, with danger outside and silence within, Elira felt the first threat of something she had never known before. Not just safety, but connection. Thick mist wrapped around the jungle trees like silent ghosts. Elira stood at the edge of the outpost's hidden path, her heart beating faster with every step. Birds with glowing feathers flew overhead, and the trees whispered in a language only the wind could understand. Jace walked beside her, scanning the area with a soldier's eyes. "This trail hasn't been used in years," he said, "but it leads to an old energy source." They had picked up a strange signal from deep inside the jungle, an energy pulse that matched Elira's own. It felt familiar, almost like something calling her. Jace had warned her to stay in the outpost, but Elira insisted on going. "I need to know what it is," she told him. "Something about it feels personal." As they walked deeper into the trees, the light began to fade, not from nightfall, but from a strange dimness in the air. The leaves darkened and even the birds grew silent. Suddenly, Elira stopped. She heard a voice, soft, broken. "Elira." She turned sharply, her breath caught in her throat. That voice, it was her brother's. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." Jace stepped in front of her, his hand on his weapon. "What is it?" he asked. "I heard him," she said, eyes wide. Thalen, my brother. But he died years ago. The voice came again, closer this time. Elira, it's me. Please help me.
Jace raised his scanner, but the readings were all wrong.
Nothing showed on the map, no life signs, no heat, just static and a flicker of dark energy. Stay close to me, he said, pulling her gently behind him. The trees opened into a small clearing, and standing there was Thalen. He looked just like she remembered him. Tall silver hair, soft eyes, but something was wrong. His feet didn't touch the ground, his shadow didn't move. Sister, he said, voice shaking. I've waited for you. Elira stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Thalen, how are you alive? Jace held her back. Look at his eyes, he said quietly. They're not real. Elira looked again. Her brother's eyes were too perfect, too still, too empty. Then, his face twisted slightly, like melting wax, and his mouth widened into a strange smile. You were supposed to come alone, he hissed. Suddenly, the trees around them shook. 3 dark shapes dropped from above, shadow beasts. Their bodies like moving fog, they leapt at Jace. Claws sharp as glass, he rolled, fired his blaster. One beast exploded into smoke. The others circled. Hissing, Elira backed away, heart racing. The fake Thalen charged at her. But something inside her snapped awake. She raised her hand. Light sparked from her palm. A soft blue glow pulsed outward. The fake brother screamed. Face twisting into ash, he vanished with a shriek. Jace finished off the last beast, his chest rising and falling fast. He turned to Elira, blinking in shock. You, what did you just do? I don't know, she said, staring at her glowing hand. I felt danger, and my body just reacted. Jace stepped forward. Slowly, he looked at her hand, then into her eyes. You've awakened something, he said. Something powerful. They returned to the outpost in silence. But inside Elira's mind, thoughts raced. Why did the voice sound like her brother? What were those beasts? And why could she destroy them with just a thought? Back in her room, she looked through her childhood journal. Old poems, sketches, and lessons from royal tutors. And one page stood out. A story her mother told her long ago. About a lost bloodline. A child born from the joining of human and alien. A child with energy hidden in her bones. A child feared by the stars. She thought it was only a bedtime tale. But now it felt like a memory, a warning that night. Jace sat at the outpost's roof, eyes scanning the forest below. He didn't sleep, he couldn't, something was hunting them. Something that knew who Elira truly was, even before she did. And if that fake Thalen had been sent to test her, what would come next? Inside, Elira stared at her reflection. She no longer looked like the quiet girl no one wanted. She looked like someone else. Someone beginning to understand what she truly was. Not weak, not forgotten, not a mistake, but chosen by something ancient and maybe by the stars themselves. The next morning, the sky above the mountains was full of golden mist. Elira stood outside the outpost, her eyes half closed, feeling something strange in the air. The energy inside her still buzzed from the night before. She hadn't slept much every time she closed her eyes. She saw her fake brother's face melting into ash. Jace joined her quietly, carrying 2 cups of steam root tea. Did you rest? He asked. A little, she replied, but something's still calling me. Jace nodded slowly. I've seen things like this before, he said. Not exactly the same, but I've fought near ancient ruins. Places where time feels heavier. Elira looked up at him, her voice soft. What if I'm not who I thought I was? Jace took a slow sip, then met her eyes. Then it's time to find out. They followed the signal deeper into the jungle. Guided by Elira's glowing pendant, it pulsed like a heartbeat. Brighter the closer they came to the source, the plants changed as they walked. Leaves shimmered like mirrors. Trees bent slightly toward Elira's presence. It was as if the forest knew her. After an hour of walking, they reached a cliff wall covered in moss. At first, it looked like nothing special, just stone. But when Elira placed her hand on it, the wall trembled. A hidden door opened with a long sigh. Behind it, a tunnel glowed with soft blue light. Symbols lined the walls, ones neither of them had ever seen. Elira felt dizzy, like her memories were being pulled from a past she never lived. They entered a round chamber at the end of the tunnel. In the center stood a floating crystal, tall, clear, and humming with quiet power. Around it were carvings of beings with both alien and human features. Some had golden skin and silver eyes. Others looked like humans with star-shaped marks on their hands. Elira stepped forward. One image showed a woman who looked almost exactly like her. She stood beside a human warrior, both holding hands as light burst around them. Below the image, a symbol matched the one on Alira's pendant. "It's you," Jace whispered. "Or someone like you." Alira touched the image. The room lit up instantly. A voice echoed through the chamber, gentle and deep. "Daughter of two worlds, you carry the bonded flame." The crystal pulsed and released a beam of light into Alira's chest. She gasped, falling to her knees. Visions filled her mind, memories that weren't hers. A child hidden in a tower, a woman running from soldiers, a man dying to protect a glowing baby wrapped in silver cloth. When the light faded, Alira was breathing hard, her hands shaking. "I saw my mother," she whispered. "But not the queen, not the one who raised me. This woman." She was scared but strong. Jace knelt beside her. "You think you were adopted?" Alira nodded slowly. "Maybe even hidden," she said. "Maybe the queen knew but kept it secret. She raised me like one of her own, but maybe she was protecting me from the truth." Jace stood and looked around the room. "This place was built long ago," he said, "by a group that believed in peace between humans and aliens. They called it the Flame Alliance." Alira stared at her glowing hands. "Then I'm part of that bloodline," she said. "Part human, and part alien." Jace gave a small smile. "Explains a lot," he said. "You think differently, feel things others don't. You don't belong to one world, you belong to both." Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed through the tunnel behind them. Footsteps, loud and fast. Jace pulled Alira behind the crystal and raised his weapon. They watched as three armored figures entered the chamber, soldiers with red markings on their armor. "Raven's mark." The lead soldier scanned the room. "Spread out," he barked. "She's here somewhere." Jace held his breath. Finger on the trigger, but Alira closed her eyes and focused. She remembered the feeling from the jungle, the power, the light. She whispered softly, "Hide us." Suddenly the air shimmered around them. The crystal glowed again, wrapping them in a soft bubble of invisibility. The soldiers passed by without seeing them. After a few minutes they left, their voices fading. Jace looked at her in awe. "You didn't even move." Alira opened her eyes. "I didn't have to," she said. "The crystal responded to my thoughts." They exited the chamber quickly. Sealing it behind them back at the outpost, Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. "We need to be careful now," he said. "Raven's men know you're alive, and now they know where you've been." Alira looked up at the sky. "I used to wonder if I mattered," she said. "If anyone would ever choose me. But now, I think I was never meant to be chosen. I was meant to awaken." Jace nodded. "And now they'll try to stop you." Alira didn't look afraid. She looked ready. The outpost was no longer safe. Jace could feel it in his bones. Every soldier instinct inside him said the same thing. They were being watched. Alira stood at the control table, her eyes scanning the security feed. Outside, the jungle looked calm, but something felt off. The birds were silent, the trees too still. It was the kind of quiet that came before an attack. Jace tightened the straps on his armor. "We have to move fast," he said. "They're not waiting anymore." Alira turned to him. "But the ancient site, what if they destroy it?" "They won't," Jace replied, loading his plasma rifle. "They want you alive. But if they can't get that, they'll settle for silence." Suddenly, the alarms rang. Red lights flashed across the outpost. They were here. Hovercrafts descended from the sky, engines screaming. Dozens of soldiers in red armor dropped from ropes, weapons drawn. Prince Raven had sent his elite guard, the Blades of Silence. They were trained to wipe out entire cities without a word. Jace looked at Alira and spoke without fear. "You stay hidden. I'll hold them off." "No," she said. Stepping closer, "I'm not that scared girl anymore. If they want me, they'll have to face both of us." Jace smiled just a little. He didn't say it, but her courage made his heart beat faster. Not because she had powers, but because she had heart. He handed her a shield disc and pulled a second blaster from his belt. "Then let's show them," he said. "What happens when you corner a human?" The attack came fast. Explosions rocked the outer gates. Metal doors melted from plasma fire, but Jace was already moving. He darted between pillars, firing with perfect aim. 3 soldiers dropped before they even saw him. He used shadows like armor, moved like lightning, fought like a man who had nothing left to fear. Alira watched from the inner chamber, her heart pounding. She had never seen him fight like this before. He wasn't just skilled. He was unstoppable, not because of rage, but because he was protecting her with everything he had. But they were outnumbered. Jace was only one man. More soldiers poured into the outpost like a flood. Elira stepped forward. The pendant on her chest began to glow. Her hands pulsed with quiet light. The energy inside her wasn't wild now, it was focused. It listened to her. She stepped into the hall and raised her hand. A blast of blue light shot forward, knocking back half a squad. They flew into the wall like leaves in a storm. Jace turned, wide-eyed. "Nice timing," he said, grinning. "Don't die yet," she replied. "I'm just getting started." Together, they moved as one, Jace with his blasters, Elira with her glowing hands every time she touched the ground. Waves of force pushed enemies back. She didn't kill. She pushed, froze and blocked. She fought with grace. But the battle was not without cost. One soldier threw a spike grenade and it exploded near Jace's side. He cried out and dropped to one knee, blood running down his arm. Elira screamed and sent a pulse that shattered the attacker's armor. She ran to Jace and knelt beside him. "You're hurt." "I've been worse," he whispered. "But we need to go now." She helped him up. His arm over her shoulder, the outpost was burning. Walls crumbling. But in the chaos, a sound echoed through the valley, horns. Not from the attackers, but from above. Dozens of ships with the Queen's crest descended from the clouds. The High Queen had sent reinforcements. The blades of silence began to retreat. Their leader gave the order to fall back. Jace and Elira were pulled into a rescue ship and flown away from the flames. In the medical bay, Jace's wound was treated. He lay on a bed, pale but alive. Elira sat beside him, silent for a while. "You nearly died," she said quietly. "But I didn't," he replied. "Because we fought together." She looked at her hands, still faintly glowing. "I never wanted power," she said. "I just wanted to be seen." "You were seen," Jace said, "by me. From the very first moment." Their hands touched gently, not as warrior and princess, not as protector and protected, but as something more. As two people whose bond was forged in fire that night. As they flew toward the Queen's safe base, Elira looked out the window at the stars. She wasn't the forgotten princess anymore. She wasn't weak. She was part of something bigger now. And in the quiet of the ship as Jace rested beside her, she whispered a promise into the night. "Next time I fight for you." The stars above the Queen's hidden fortress glowed brighter than ever before. Elira stood on the balcony in a quiet moment of calm. The wind played with her hair, and her hands still shimmered faintly with light. It had been 3 days since the battle. 3 days since she and Jace fought side by side. Inside the medical bay, Jace was healing fast, even injured. He joked with the medics, his eyes never losing their fire. But when Elira entered the room, his expression softened. He looked at her not like a protector, but like someone who had found home. "I didn't expect to live this long," he said with a small smile. "Not after facing half of Ryvan's army." "You didn't live," Elira replied gently. "You fought, and you didn't fight alone." She sat beside him, their fingers touching. A silence passed between them. Not empty, but full of meaning. They had become something rare, bonded not by blood, but by belief. The Queen called for them that evening. The court gathered once more, but this time, Elira didn't stand at the edge. Forgotten and alone, she stood in the center, with her head high and her heart open. The High Queen's voice rang out through the grand chamber. "In the time of great danger, one of our daughters stood not with a prince, but with a human. She revealed a truth that was buried. She awakened a legacy we tried to forget." Gasps rose from the nobles. Whispers filled the air, but Elira didn't look away. The Queen turned toward her and spoke softer. "You are not just a princess of Zayari," she said. "You are the heir of the bonded flame. You are the bridge between human and alien blood, between war and peace." Then, she turned to Jace. "And you, warrior of Earth, have earned something greater than honor. You've earned trust." The Queen stepped back, and the court bowed to Elira for the first time in her life. She wasn't the last. She wasn't the forgotten. She was the chosen. Suddenly, a voice shouted from the back of the chamber. Prince Raven, bloody and broken, pushed through the guards. "You bow to a traitor?" He growled. "She is not pure. She is not royal. She carries corrupted blood." Jace moved forward, ready to protect her. But Elira raised her hand gently. "No," she said. Let him speak. Raven pointed at her, his voice trembling. She should have been erased. I tried to end her before she destroyed the old ways. And you failed, Alira said calmly. Not because I am powerful, but because I'm not alone. She turned and offered her hand to Jace. He stepped beside her, even with his wound still healing. We are stronger together, she said to the court. Because love is not weakness. Because peace is not surrender. And because no one, human or alien, should be cast aside for being different. Raven roared in rage and drew his blade. But before he could strike, the guards surrounded him. This time no prince stood with him. He was alone, he had power but no heart. And in the end, that was his defeat. Later that night, Alira and Jace stood beneath the twin moons. The sky was quiet, but their hearts were full. Do you think this is the end? Jace asked. She shook her head. No, she said. It's just the beginning. He looked at her, eyes filled with something deeper than words. Whatever comes next, he said. I'll stand with you, she smiled, even if the stars fall. He nodded, especially then. Their hands met again, and this time their bond glowed bright, not just energy, not just magic, but trust, respect, and something that changed the galaxy forever. The next morning, news spread across systems about the alien princess no one chose and the human who stepped into the light. Together they proved that unity could rise from ruin, that being different could become destiny, and that the most powerful bond is one made by choice. From that day they were remembered in every star system, not as ruler and guard, not as warrior and healer, but as the bonded flame Alira and Jace, the ones who stood when no one else would, the ones who chose each other in the darkness and lit up the stars.